to my much more positive list, my top 10 films of 2013. Now hopefully you'll have seen my bottom 10 list already, and as I said in that one, I'm not a full-time film reviewer. I've been to see about 40 films in the cinema in the last year, which I think puts me well above the average, but nothing close to the number of films that all-out reviewers go and see. I'd guess they see about 300 or 400 films a year. Maybe someone can tell me what the actual figure is. So if you want to know which films I've seen, well, I've put them all down there in the list so you can see exactly which films I'm choosing from here. So if a film that you loved isn't here, well, you can check if it's in the list or not, because maybe I just didn't see it. Okay, let's get started. Number 10, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. The number 10 spot very nearly went to Django Unchained, and I was wondering for a while actually, should I put it in? For many people it's a 2012 film, but for me over here it didn't come out till January, so I want to include it even though it's already been talked about loads. And then finally I got around to December and it's eventually knocked off the top 10 list by The Hobbit, which is yeah, a lot of fun. For all the things I liked about it, I mean, it did have its little problems, but I don't really want to go into too much because it's, you know, it's a bit too soon to start bringing in spoiler material, so I'm just going to say that I liked it and it deserved to be at number 10, and it's a lot of fun. Number 9, The Call. This was a very pleasant surprise. I didn't know a huge amount about it, just went to see it on a whim really. Halle Berry gives a very good performance as an emergency services call centre worker, and then opposite her you've got this brilliant villain played by Michael Eklund. He's really sinister, and it's just a little bit more effective for me because he does look a bit like John Terry. I was really gripped by the narrative of this film. It's rare that I get so completely engaged actually with something like this. It's a very simple but surprisingly original concept, and it's executed brilliantly. Number 8, Iron Man 3. I very nearly gave this film a miss altogether. I'd seen and immensely enjoyed The Avengers, but I hadn't seen the other Iron Man films, and then I saw the trailer for Iron Man 3 and I was absolutely dead set on giving it a miss. There's this terrible voiceover, I consider myself a teacher, and you know, that had me cringing, and I wasn't really feeling anything but apathy over the sort of self-pity monologues coming from Tony Stark, and it was just those two things in the trailer, and I was just thinking, yeah, okay, why do I want to see this film? It sounds really bad. Then someone recommended that I check out the other two films, so I did. I watched them both, and I liked them enough to go and see Iron Man 3, even though I really wasn't expecting very much. And then, wow, everything fell into place. The Trevor Slattery revelation, it just explains everything, you know, a character that ridiculous. Of course it had to be that, and it was brilliant, and the little Croydon joke and the whole thing, it just redeemed the film completely from that hideous trailer. In fact, I'll say, well done on making that deceptive trailer, you know, it pulled off a great surprise. Almost lost out on me going to see it entirely, but since I did go and see it, it ended up all the better for it. And the film's got loads of fun in there. It pulls off this near impossible trick of having a child sidekick that doesn't annoy you. I mean, that was great. The way that Tony Stark, he just takes the piss out of him. It's brilliant. It's a lot of fun. So you can have the whole child factor in there without alienating anyone who isn't a child. But you're allowed to express your opinion too, and you know where to do it. Number 7, Side Effects. This was a charming little mystery drama, which I think probably got forgotten amid all the summer blockbusters and the big autumn and Christmas releases, but it certainly stuck in my mind. And there's some great performances all round. There's a plot that has me interested, lots of surprises, not too predictable really, and Channing Tatum doesn't stick around long enough to ruin it, which is great. Perhaps he can bugger off in search of someone who'll give him a first name for one of his surplus surnames, I don't know. Even Jude Law, whom I really usually can't stand, actually managed to play the victim in this very well without annoying me. That's quite a feat actually. And if you did miss this one out, then I strongly recommend you go and catch up on it and see it, and I won't say any more because I don't want to ruin it for you. Number 6, Alan Partridge, Alpha Papa. Well, we've been waiting for a Partridge film for a very long time, and by the time we got to see it, I have to say I was kind of expecting it to be a disappointment, as these things tend to be when you've waited that long. But actually, yeah, I was surprised and relieved, and then really entertained and excited. I laughed right the way through it, probably to the point of perplexing everyone else in the cinema who doesn't get Partridge as much as Partridge fans think everybody should. But there you go. It's a great cameo from Simon Green, of being the Geordie that I remember him instead of being the meerkat. And Nigel Lindsay, he's a real chameleon, and that smooth talking corporate character. The idea that comes from the same source as Barry, let's blow up the mosque from 4 Lions, that really stood out for me. But it was really Colin Meaney who stole it, I think, apart from Steve Coogan being really on form, because, well, he's managed the seemingly impossible job of being an antagonist, but being charming and bringing pathos to the film and all these things, and in a film that's really just meant to be funny. It's great, it's absolutely great. And as much as I enjoyed both the Anchorman films, you know, they don't come close to Alan Partridge. And by the way, a message to the likes of Jeremy Jahns, Chris Stuckman, and all you other big, you know, well-respected and deservedly respected YouTube reviewers who gave this one a miss. I mean, come on, you're only cheating yourselves here. Shame on you, you've missed out on one of the funniest films of the year. Number 5, The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. I only really discovered this series upon the release of the first film. I knew that there were books that existed, I knew they were popular with young people, but I managed to go into the film almost entirely unaware of what really to expect, so I could enjoy that one, certainly. And the second one, I think, just took it up a notch. I enjoyed this a lot more. I think this one's probably aimed a little bit more at adults than children, or just maybe the story just means it's worked out that way. But yeah, I certainly enjoyed it just that little bit more. I thought the first one, as much fun as it was, had a lot of flaws. This was just much more polished. I couldn't help wondering though if perhaps both films might have benefited from being directed by Paul Verhoeven, just because of what he's done before. Anyway, it might be interesting to see. I thought the story elements and character dynamics were a little bit more sophisticated this time, and certainly appreciated that Elizabeth Banks' character showed a lot more humanity, which was certainly missing from the first film. I also really appreciated the Empire Strikes Back style sort of cliffhanger, and yeah, that was fun. It gave me an appetite for the next film. Number 4, Saving Mr. Banks. Here's a film that really oozes class. Fine performances all round, not just from the excellent Emma Thompson, but Hank, Farrell, Giamatti. They're all really, really strong performances. It's a film that pretty much got everything right. The subject matter centred around the film that I watched so many times as a child, and very powerfully told backstory of P.L. Travers' childhood and how it led to Mary Poppins' story, and just simply wonderful, funny and engaging scenes in which Travers and Disney negotiate over the creation of one of the most significant films of so many people's childhood. It's just a pure delight from start to finish. It's made me want to go and watch Mary Poppins again, and then go and see Saving Mr. Banks again straight afterwards. Number 3, Star Trek Into Darkness. Now then, as much as I love Mary Poppins, there is nothing, absolutely nothing on film or television that I love more than Star Trek. If I find that Star Trek's on telly, the only thing that I'd switch over for would be QPR playing live in a game that I couldn't get to. And even then, I'd make sure that I whip out the DVD of whatever was on so I could see the rest of it straight after the game. So with that in mind, you can understand how much I loved all of the references that Into Darkness had to the Wrath of Khan and Space Seed and so many other elements of the pre-2009 Star Trek universe. When Spock and Kirk and, well, sorry, it was back in May, so I'm not really worried about spoilers now. Consider this your warning. We're sitting on either side of the barrier and reenacting Spock's farewell in Star Trek 2. I felt every emotion at once. At the same time as I was feeling all this excitement about, oh wow, they've recreated this scene and they're doing it justice and it's reverse roles, and I was also feeling that, wow, this is really sad, Kirk's dying. I was feeling all the same pathos or the same sadness that I felt from the Wrath of Khan all over again. It's impossible to describe, you know, how you can feel these two contrasting things, and it was a really special moment in the cinema for a Star Trek fan, and that's why I will defend it to the death against all the criticisms about fan service, because I think Star Trek fans deserve to get something like that, and I think if J.J. Abrams does the same thing to Star Wars, and Star Wars fans, if they get something like that as well, they will be just as happy. One thing I will say, little criticism, and it's important to me, although it's probably not important to many people, whether they're Star Trek fans or not. Whether it was Benedict Cumberbatch or one of the script writers, I don't know, whoever had the final say on that line, the Klingons will come looking for whomever is responsible. I mean, come on, shame on you. Shame on you. You should never, ever have let that even make it to shooting, never mind the final cut. You know, how can a top-level film writer or actor, you know, or all of them for that matter, all fail to understand how to use relative pronouns and what's a subject and what's an object? I mean, seriously, it's left a real black mark on an amazing film. Number 2, The Butler. I've heard that some people found this film a bit too syrupy. Perhaps it glossed over the harsh reality of what it really meant to be on the rough side of racial inequality in the mid-20th century. And perhaps some of you will look forward more to the brutal honesty of 12 Years a Slave, but I didn't see it that way. I just saw a charming, heartwarming story of a family at the centre of some key historical moments, allowing us to relive them through an eyewitness point of view. It had some excellent performances and a really gripping narrative, and what more can you ask from a film where you already know how it's going to end and a gripping narrative? If you missed this one, I strongly recommend you go back and find it, not least of all because at last, in the third film of 2013 that's set in the White House, we finally get to see a US president get assassinated. Incidentally, the whole film, I couldn't work out what they were calling the lead character. Is it Caesar? Cecil? I looked it up on IMDb. It's Cecil. His name is Cecil. So yeah, that's solved that mystery. Good old IMDb. Anyway, by its absence from the list up till now, you've probably been able to deduce that my number one film for 2013 is number one, Gravity. Take nothing away from the performances and the 3D and the pacing and the tension and all the emotion and the visual effects, giving us a great zero-G environment and the feeling of immersion, being up there in space with Sandra Bullock as she tries to stay alive. Take nothing away from that, they are all amazing. What I got most out of this film is that I will never ever get tired of those views looking down on the earth. That was why it was worth going to see the film in IMAX. That's why it was good in 3D. That's why 3D was actually an improvement for a change. It was truly awesome in the proper sense of the word, and if you're thinking about Eddie Izzard and hot dogs right now, then you'll know what I mean. It's frightening and beautiful. And personally, I am now frightened of going to space in a way that I wouldn't have been before. You don't consider it, very few people get the opportunity. Oh yeah, it's not as if I'm actually going to go, but now if I think about it, that is actually truly frightening, and I don't know if I would. I think I got enough excitement just from seeing the film, which I loved. But yeah, just looking down on the Earth, making out the continents, you know, the majesty of the planet and the way it's presented, it's truly marvellous. And as a result of all the sort of technical improvements and the pioneering work done on this film, I really hope that this will give us a new level in subsequent film. Incredible, breathtaking visual film, perhaps set further in space or under the ocean, or, you know, something we've not seen before that can now be done because Gravity has done some work to inspire people to do these things. You know, we saw Terminator 2 and The Matrix push things just that little bit further in terms of visual effects, and I'm hoping that Gravity's done something to shape the next decade in a similar way. Just imagine if J.J. Abrams, he produces the next Star Trek film and gets Alfonso Cuarón to direct it and bring those tricks that he's picked up in Gravity to that. How amazing would that be? That's my idea. Tell me what yours is. What do you think? Tell me below. What do you think could follow Gravity in making use of what cinema can now do and building on it? What would your ideas be? What would you love to see for that in 2014 and beyond? So that's the top 10 list for 2013. I hope you enjoyed it. Well done for making it to the end again. And just as I asked for my bottom 10 list, I want comments telling me what your list would be, how many films you saw in 2013, and what you're looking forward to in the new year. I want to do some more film reviews from now on, so if you think that's a good idea, let me know. And if you can think of other ways I might want to expand the scope of my channel, do stick it down there. And you can find me on Twitter if you want. I'll see you in the new year.